Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our inaugural webinar. This is AI application integrations for trial design and operational efficiency. This webinar has been proudly brought to you by TrialKey and Clinials. The moderator for today is myself, Bernice Averian, the Head of Marketing and Communications at Opyl. And the speakers are Maree, CEO and founder of Clinials, and Minh-Thu, the Business Development Manager of TrialKey. If you have any questions, feel free to add it to the chat and we can address that at the very end. Can you both please briefly introduce your organizations and share the mission behind Clinials and TrialKey?
Okay, I'll start. Welcome everybody, and thank you for all moving over to the new platform. From Clinials' perspective, we're transforming clinical trials with AI-driven clinical trial content generation hub, which I'll explain more today. And what we're looking to do is really set a new standard in communications in the life sciences industry.
Awesome. Thanks, Maree. Hi, everyone. Thanks for jumping on to Teams, even though we had some tech difficulties as a tech company. I'm the BDM at TrialKey. I come from a pharmaceutical and from a dental background, but I've spent the last 5 years working in industry. At TrialKey, we use AI to simulate and optimize clinical trials. And our aim is to use data-driven decisions to make medicine better, to make research faster and more efficient.
Thank you. What inspired your companies to focus on AI solutions for clinical trials?
Okay, I'll start. So Clinials is actually my second digital health company. So my first company was a product called Wanji, which was a personal health record for people to track their health. And then what happened was my husband went on a clinical trial that was in 2020. And, you know, whilst he received hope and care during that time, as, you know, we know this happens in clinical trials, what I saw from a technologist's eyes was the tremendous burden on the system. You know, he was dealing with, you know, deep technical protocols and inefficient communications. And so it inspired me to look into these inefficiencies and see how we could do this better. So that was the seed for starting Clinials. And, you know, what I wanted to achieve in starting Clinials is why couldn't clinical trials be more accessible, efficient for everybody involved? So that includes patients, but also the stakeholders. There's a tremendous burden with that. And from the journey perspective, we started this AI journey over 2 years ago, where we created our first plain language protocol synopsis for the EU market. So we've been you know, working on this for some time.
That's really inspiring, Maree. TrialKey itself has been around for about a year. We got our first paying customers around June last year, but we belong to an Opyl company, an umbrella company called Opyl that's been around for a while. And what Opyl used to work in was in patient recruitment. And Opyl used a product called TrialScreen, and what we did is we used AI for patient recruitment. But while we were doing that, we saw that there was a gap in the market where we could significantly improve outcomes and trial design using AI. So typically when a clinical trial is designed, the person designing it might use 10 or 20 clinical trials to analyze it and to form the skeleton of the clinical trial. And what we can do by leveraging AI is AI can read thousands of clinical trials within seconds and create predictive patterns that a human might not otherwise see. So it just helps that efficiency and time piece.
Brilliant. How do you see AI currently transforming the clinical research landscape, and what are its biggest opportunities, Maree?
Look, I think there's the whole community, the whole life sciences community is on a journey with understanding AI and what it can achieve. And I guess that's one of the reasons why, you know, we wanted to have this webinar today, to sort of disperse that and have conversations about what people understand and maybe the areas that they may not understand yet. I believe there's quite a lot of understanding in life sciences about AI in drug discovery. There's certainly an understanding of using AI to search through a variety of health records in various systems and extract some key information for decision or getting a list of patients. So I think they are, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I think there's some understood AI use cases that the general community understands. However, I think what, TrialKey and Clinials are having a conversation about today are some of the new areas that you may not yet understand. Specifically, Clinials, we're in that automate document review, and a new category, which is communication and stakeholder engagement. So, but, certainly from the TrialKey perspective, there's these other categories, the optimized protocol design, and there's other areas we're not involved in, which is real-time safety monitoring, digital twin models, and so on. So I think this is what we're trying to, have today, is a conversation about the different types of AI and where we fit in.
Yeah, I think Maree's covered pretty much everything. We're starting to see lots of AI companies pop up in this landscape. So definitely ones, as mentioned, in drug discovery, in AI twins, in efficiency. So both of our companies as well, also with adverse event prediction, real-time analysis as well. Biomarker is a big one for discovery and targets. But yeah, today we'll be focusing on Clinials and TrialKey.
Yep, cool.
Maree, can you elaborate on how Clinials Content Generation Hub addresses protocol management challenges with your AI tools?
Certainly can. So the key problem we're looking to solve is there's so much inefficiency in the operational side of clinical trials, and the impact is they're very costly and it extends the time. So and what we discovered was that all of the stakeholders in clinical trials, and this is, sponsors, CROs, site management companies, service providers, central labs, and also investors. Everybody is involved in reviewing and making decisions on protocols. And this is the problem we're seeking to solve, is finding, providing an opportunity where these stakeholders can upload a protocol or a synopsis into the Clinials Content Generation Hub, extract key data to make decisions on. We provide an interactive digital protocol, and then generate 2-page summaries. So this is solving that problem around stakeholders reviewing. Instead of reviewing 200-page protocols, you have these snapshot views.
Minh-Thu, how does the TrialKey clinical trial simulator optimize trial design through predictive analytics? And can you please share a practical example?
I'll start from the beginning when we created TrialKey. So it took a few years to code TrialKey and to get our proprietary data set. So what our team of data scientists did is they collected information from over 400,000 clinical trials. And in each clinical trial, they looked for 1,300 variables, whether this was enrollment number of sites, whether sites were primary, secondary endpoints, inclusion, exclusion criteria. It looked for these 1,300 variables. And what it does is the program simulates each clinical trial over 100,000 times. And each time what it does is for each variable, it'll increase the enrollment number a little bit. It'll decrease the enrollment number a little bit. It'll take the trial, it'll put the trial in Europe. It'll put the trial in Indonesia. It'll see how that changes the trial. And essentially what it can do is it can predict with an accuracy of 92% whether a trial will meet its primary outcomes or not without the trial ever happening. So that's in the case with where we get a protocol. We can run the protocol through our system and it'll look for those variables, simulate it, and give us a success score, a percentage score of whether the trial will meet its outcomes or not. And the way that we created this is we did it on a basic data set in 2017 at first, and that was on 4,000 trials. Every year since then, when a new data set has come out, we have to test the algorithm again. So every year it's getting more and more accurate. And what it means is at the end of the day, we know how much every single variable attributes to that success score. And so a practical example would be we worked with a startup called Brain Vector. So they're doing some groundbreaking work where they use VR to treat mild to moderate depression. And what we've done with them is we've helped them design a clinical trial. They're a startup, and this means that money is a big factor. And what we're doing is we've created a clinical trial for them and we've designed it for them, and it's optimized for success. So what this means is we've helped them find the best primary endpoints, secondary endpoints, inclusion, exclusion criteria, number of touch points. So how often the patients are contacted, how often they have to come in, so the type of touch points, whether it's in person, on the phone, with a psychologist, and the intensity of touch points. So what sort of time range are we looking at? Every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, and everything that we recommend is designed for success.
Minh-Thu, you just touched on it, but how do AI platforms like yours refine inclusion exclusion criteria, and what impact does this have on the trial success rates?
So that's a really good question. So how our platform does it uses something called large language models and natural language processing, which means it can take a huge chunk of information. So essentially, we can make it as bespoke as we want, but we can tell our program, look, I want you to look at mild to moderate depression, find every single trial in treatment. I want it to only look at SSRIs, and I only want it to look at trials in the last 7 years. And it'll find, let's say it finds 2,000 trials. And what it'll do is it'll take the inclusion exclusion criteria from every single one of those trials, and it'll give each line of inclusion or exclusion criteria, it'll give it a success score, because what it does is it puts one in, takes one out, and it simulates it all of those times, and it finds out which criteria is perfect. So which means that you'll get the best patient recruitment, what's more likely to recruit with a particular inclusion or exclusion criteria without it being too exclusive that it reduces the patient pool.
Yeah. Maree, what specific operational challenges in clinical trials are addressed by your platform, and how does AI streamline these processes?
So, one of the key challenges is unbillable hours in the whole sector. So, there's, for example, CROs, the bid process, receiving complex protocols, site startup, feasibility. These are all, many of these activities involve reviewing protocols, making decisions on them, and then communicating those. So this is one of the challenges. So also communication. So we have operational issues of how do you, once you have a complex protocol, then distribute that information and have decisions made on that. So this is another area where Clinials in the Content Generation Hub, we take these protocols, we create 2-page summaries, which are either in plain language, or in scientific language, the operational report, and also multilingual. So, for example, if your study is in the US, 20% of the population speak in Spanish. Now, this is not just the participants. This is also, site stakeholders as well. And so let's, help them understand the protocol quicker by communicating, summaries in these different languages. That also, one other thing is, by its nature, if we improve the way that operationally we're managing our protocols and communicate them, this transfers just by its nature to be having a more patient-centric trial. We're going to have that information, the 2-page summaries, which can also be used in, the communication to patients as well.
On that same note, Maree, can you share how Clinials ensures participant-focused communication and how AI drives this process?
So AI drives this process in our Content Generation Hub by, first of all, generating plain language communication. So 2-page summaries to start with, We're working on a patient information sheet this quarter. I think we've got a workshop on that next week if anyone wants to come along. And also the multilingual content. From the patient-facing side of our platform, we can generate landing pages and pre-screening in plain language. And these are, what we have now is no excuse to not being able to diversely communicate. So we can have landing pages that are for, one type of cohort with, images that relate to that country, and then we can have another landing page of pre-screening which is in another language. So what our AI does, it makes it so simple to be able to communicate to our very diverse patients.
Can you both please share examples of how your platforms have directly improved the success of your clients or partners?
I'll go first. I'll give Maree a bit of a break. So we currently work with a number of CROs, and the way that we work at the moment, we provide something called a preliminary report, and this is completely free of charge. So what the preliminary report has in it, it has your success score. So we'll say right now, the protocol that you've provided us, its probability of success of reaching its primary outcomes is 45%, and it's currently in the 60th percentile. We'll also say we can get that up to 60% and the 85th percentile. And this is completely free. And in the preliminary report, we also have a competitive analysis. So we'll find the 40 to 50 closest NCT trials to what your trial is doing. And what we'll do is we'll simulate those trials 100,000 times as well. And we'll give them a success score. And we'll map it out on a timeline. So you can see when those trials are starting, when they're ending, and their duration as well. And what this gives you is a point where you can benchmark your trial against other trials that are currently active in the same phase, in the same condition as well. And that's completely free. And we also have a technology breakdown where we'll say right now of these 700 trials that are in the same phase, looking at the same condition as you, this is what they're looking at. So if it's mild to moderate depression, this is the number of trials in devices. This is their probability of success. This is the number of SSRIs, SNRIs, whatever it may be. And it just gives you a good idea of the technology landscape as well. And what this preliminary report allows our CROs to do is it allows them to differentiate themselves from other companies that may be vying for that same business. And then we work with sponsors as well, where they can send us their clinical trial design before spending lots of money on the clinical trial. So the average phase 3 pivotal clinical trial costs about $48 million US. Before you spend that money, you might as well validate the design, validate the biostatistics. Once it's done, then you can put the money in for the clinical trial as well. In terms of where we've seen a trial succeed or not, I think we'll be able to definitely see that information in the next year or so, where it's customers come to us with their design, we've adjusted it, and then we can see whether it succeeds or not. Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome. I think what we're demonstrating is that using AI, clinical trials can really reduce their spend and certainly the time. And to that point, what we already have achieved with customers using our platform, and our content generation hub was only launched late last year. So this is really fast examples that we have. Key information is that we're speeding up, we're reducing unbillable hours, but speeding up proposal times by about 70% and halving site startup. So, these are really important, KPIs for organisations to understand. Now, when I've interviewed some of our customers and asked them, what value have you found in the Clinials Content Generation Hub? They have said the first one is time. So the time saving to understand protocols and generate reports is time and money. The second thing is the content. The content is consistent, quality, and professional. And so, for many organizations, they don't have that capability. to generate professional reports, or they've never done it before, or it takes weeks or months. So that's the value from some of our customers. Now, there's the other success that we provide is we've introduced something called a credit-based pricing model. You can go to our website, clinials.com. You can have a free trial and you will have 50 credits. And that'll enable you to try out exactly what we've been talking about today, that fast generation of understanding a protocol and generating reports. But what you can do is really, you can self-serve. You can go get started. The FAQs are all there, and it's a gives you control, and it's a scalable pricing model for you to continue.
What challenges did your clients face initially, and how were they resolved through your AI-driven solutions? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, look, I think if we think about the journey of our customers, many clients are coming to terms with AI and how to bring it into their workflow. And I think that's the key idea here is how do you incorporate AI as being your co-worker, right? And how can it help you? So I think the first thing is that organizations need to stop, take time to assess how this can, be incorporated into their workflow. And there needs to be a change champion in the organization. So someone who gets it and is not is willing to put the time aside and say, oh yes, I'm going to try this new way because I know that it's going to be give us that competitive advantage.
Yeah. So some of our clients, initially the challenges that they face, so I'll give the example of biostatistics. So sometimes there might be quite a bit of variability in the calculation. It might be a certain calculation where there's quite a high number of assumptions as well. So what we do when we work with our clients is we help them find a range, the optimized range for enrollment. So what we'll do is we'll find every trial that's been done in that space, in that phase, and we'll plot it out on a map, and we'll simulate each trial and see how much enrollment contributed to their probability of success. And what we'll be able to do is, what we do essentially is a systematic analysis on all the trials that have previously been done. We summarize what all of the biostats have said in the past, and we find the right amount where you've got enough patients that there's enough power, but also enough patients that you can meet your primary outcomes, but also not so many patients that you're overspending unnecessarily and not contributing to that probability of success. So we just help find the happy medium for all of the variables, and everything is optimized by success, and it's all data driven. So we'll say, look, right now, looking at this protocol, the data says that it's best that you have 4 sites in Indonesia and 3 sites in Taiwan. And then we will say that's all data driven, and then we can explain why afterwards.
Looking ahead, what advancements do you foresee in AI for trial design and execution over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think this space is growing, and it's growing really, really quickly. So we're both in AI companies that are quite recent, and we're seeing new companies pop up all the time. I think there's going to be quite a lot more work, like we said before, in AI twins. I think in the future, control arms will probably be in AI as well, because there should be enough. If it's a well-studied disease, there should be quite enough coverage and enough information to have a control arm completely in AI. I think adaptive trial management, there's going to be a large space for it there, and same for any sort of data management, data capture, where AI can actually run through the program and find any mistakes and input. So it will always be AI along with humans. However, AI will be there to make sure that there are no errors.
So from my perspective, there's an enormous pipeline of AI generated content that we can contribute to moving forward, and simply working with our customers on that. So we see there's automation of processes is key. Extraction and processing information about protocol and then protocol changes. So this is why we've started with a digital protocol, being able to really improve our faster feasibility, budgeting and decision making, and also be more adaptive in our communication to either stakeholders or participants. So we see that many of those processes we can't do now, we will be able to adapt and automate using AI.
What advice would you give to clinical research professionals looking to integrate AI into their workflows?
I guess this goes for all clinical research professionals. I guess the ones who already want to integrate AI into their workflows, that's really open-minded. But for all professionals, I'd say keep an open mind. There's going to be a lot of new companies, a lot of AI companies popping up, but keep an open mind and just see where things can integrate into what you're already using. So if you're already using a certain program, see which AI companies can come in, and instead of changing the workflow, they go along with the workflow and they just make it more efficient and easier. Yeah, and I know that AI hasn't traditionally been used in clinical research, but I do think, the people who do integrate it will end up being more efficient, and they'll be the ones that earn more business and the ones that don't use AI to their advantage.
What I would say is try it and find out whether it is a delight for you or not. This is what we want to, this is the experience that we want, that you try the use of AI within your workflows and you can see how it can ease your burden. That it shouldn't be something that increases your burden. It should be incorporated into your workflow, and those that are ready to do that and to try it, then I think you will be delighted.
And last two questions. What has been the most significant success story for each of your platforms to date?
Look, I think the opportunity, particularly in the US, where we can automate the process and really decrease times with CRO, business development, and site feasibility. These are the two key areas that our stakeholders have been focused on, that are just using our platform for. There's been significant success in also using the plain language generated reports for ethics and participant content, and we see that only getting better.
We ran a simulation for a very large complementary medicines company, and we found that we could have saved them $7 million in their protocol, because what they had done is they had over-recruited by thousands of patients. They had over-recruited by so much, but also they had too many sites, and also too many sites in too many countries, and in the wrong countries as well. So what that means is that it wasn't as efficient as it could be. It wasn't as streamlined, and they were just spending too much.
That's awesome. To be able to reduce the number of sites and then communication, that really has a drill down effect.
Yeah. So it finds just the right balance where it's not too complex, too many sites, too many locations, but also it's enough that it's representative of the population they're looking for.
Yeah, that's why I think it's really an awesome opportunity, to really design, your protocol more efficiently, and then so that's really the TrialKey solution, and then with the Clinials solution, then communicate that protocol.
Absolutely.
Special opportunities.
How can attendees get started with Clinials or TrialKey, and are there any special opportunities for webinar participants?
Certainly from our perspective, we have a free trial available on clinials.com. I'll just pop it in the chat so you can go there. Actually, I'll just tab it. Hang on. Put the URL there.
I will pop my email in the chat as well. So if you're interested, we'd love to have a chat. We can just talk about it. And like I said, the preliminary report is completely free of charge. So, you know, if we have a chat and you're quite interested, what we can do is get an NDA signed, and then we can run a preliminary report for you. There's no obligation after this. But if we say, you know, we can get your trial from 35% up to 70% and you think that's worth it, then we can go on from there. But there's no obligation, and the preliminary report's completely free.
I've just also popped a second opportunity in the chat as well. Next week, we're having a workshop for our stakeholders. We already have worked on some preliminary designs, on some pipeline reports, and we'd like to engage with our existing customers to ensure that this is fit for purpose within your organisations. So we've done that with all of the reports that we've done so far. For example, our operational report, which is more scientific, but also includes the schedule of activities, was done in collaboration with our existing customers. So this is an ongoing purpose that we intend to do. So if you would like to be part of that workshop, please register.
Well, that wraps up the webinar for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. This has been proudly brought to you by TrialKey and Clinials. A copy of the webinar and also the links that they have mentioned will be emailed out to everyone who has registered for the event. Thank you so much.
Thank you.